give me a minute. Let me say in conclusion, Honorable Speaker, members of parliament, myself included, and I have seen many who have spoken. In fact, I took time to go through clips to see what members of parliament were saying. Members of parliament have been defending the issue of public-private partnerships as an alternative way of using our, or rather implementing our capital projects, Honorable Speaker. And that has not changed. The president did indicate when he appeared here that following information that now they had received from partner states and friendly states is the reason why he was terminating the Adani deals. That is not to mean, Honorable Speaker, that we do not need a new airport at JKIA. That is not to mean, Honorable Speaker, that millions of Kenyans who have no access to power do not need that power. That is not to mean, Honorable Speaker,
you beg to move?
Yes, Honorable Speaker.
Conclude that statement.
I conclude that statement by saying it is not to mean that without Adani, we do not need to get the massive investment that we need at JKIA, the massive investment that we need in our energy sector and our road sector, Honorable Speaker. I look forward to the president, as he said, our nation's economy and the nation is resilient. I look forward to the president and his administration ensuring that they get alternative private partnerships to ensure that JKIA is redone, more international airports in Kisumu and in Mombasa are redone, that Ketraco is able to transmit the idle power that we have generated. We have invested hundreds of billions in generation of power, but we can't evacuate that power because we don't have the capital resources to evacuate that power. We need to evacuate that power, take it to our villages, make sure that our people can get jobs through manufacturing in the villages by having factories being established there. Those who can work online, Honorable Speaker, because they have access to power. And Honorable Speaker, I must encourage the president and the government, the Kenya Kwanza government, to ensure that the public-private partnership deals that have been lost with Adani, they work with speed. And also challenge those, the naysayers, Honorable Speaker. If you don't like Adani, bring Ambani, or bring the Turkish, bring the Chinese, bring the Americans, bring anyone with capital to invest in this country. How I wish, Honorable Speaker, that those who have been admonishing these private-public partnerships are giving us alternative solutions and telling us this particular investor is not good, we have this other particular investor that is better. With that, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move and request all of us to debate, and there is nothing to support, Honorable Speaker, it's just to note. But as we debate, we do it with decorum and also be forthright with Kenyans that PPPs are the new way to actualize capital investments. The roads, Honorable Speaker, those who go to the western part of our country, if you try and drive from Nairobi to Nakuru or to Malaba today on a Friday, it takes you inordinately long, Honorable Speaker. Nakuru, a journey that should take you 1.5 hours, today takes close to 4.5 hours. I look forward to the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure getting a PPP arrangement to ensure that the long-lost Rironi-Mau Summit Road, and all the way to Malaba, for instance, if it was possible, Honorable Speaker, that trucks should be able to use a toll road from Nairobi or from Mombasa all the way to Malaba to open up our borders and regional trade, Honorable Speaker, and deepen and tighten, as you told us last week.
And widen.
And widen. Widen, deepen, widen, and tighten our regional integration. And that is only possible through regional trade, and that regional trade will not be a reality if we cannot adopt public-private partnerships as the new way of capitalizing or financing capital-intensive projects to avoid, as we have said, overtaxing Kenyans. Because the alternative is to tax Kenyans. But because Kenyans have spoken, and I'm glad, Honorable Speaker, the President told us that those of us in leadership, listening is a full-time occupation. And I am glad we have a president who has not only demonstrated to Kenyans that he is focused, but he is also listening to Kenyans. And in listening to Kenyans, he acts not out of political expediency, but acts in the best interest of the country and with a long-term view of where this country ought to be, and working hard to take it there. With those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move. And I want to request the leader of minority, my good friend, the Honorable Junet Mohammed, to second the motion.
Good friend, you have 20 minutes to second.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand to second the motion on the debate of the President's speech, the State of the Nation address, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the majority leader has eloquently spoken about the speech, Mr. Speaker. And if you are a president and you have the majority leader on your side, I think 50% of your problems are solved. So, Mr. Speaker, when you become president, make sure the majority leader is on your side. God willing, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on Thursday, 21st of November, 2024, Parliament held a joint sitting of both houses, Mr. Speaker. And the President made State of the Nation address, Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Article 132(1)(c), which requires the President, Mr. Speaker, annually to report in address of the nation on all the measures taken and the progress achieved in the realization of the national values referred in Article 10, publish in the Gazette the details of the measures and progress under paragraph 1, and submit a report for debate to the National Assembly on the progress, Mr. Speaker, made in fulfilling in the international obligation. Mr. Speaker, we were all present here, and this is a very, very important occasion, Mr. Speaker, for the country. And these are some of the benefits that the new constitution has given to Kenyans, Mr. Speaker. You are a veteran, Mr. Speaker, member of this house. You remember in the old days, the president just used to come here to open parliament and address on issues that he feels he wishes, without talking about these issues that now Kenyans are expected, members of parliament are holding accountable the president, Mr. Speaker. And it is mandatory, Mr. Speaker, for the president to address the nation annually. It's a constitutional requirement. It is not a choice, Mr. Speaker. The only choice he has is to agree with you on the date that he will come here. But for him to come here annually, I am sure next year, God willing, at whatever time he will appear on this house to address the country on those issues, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we must be alive to the fact that this year's national address came against the backdrop of certain unique happenings, Mr. Speaker. You remember in June this year, we had demonstrations, the so-called Gen Z demonstrations. We had the formation of the broad-based government, Mr. Speaker. And we had the historic impeachment of the former deputy president, Mr. Speaker. Those are historical issues that happened in our country the last 6 months, Mr. Speaker. And the president came to address the nation under the backdrop of those issues, Mr. Speaker. But one of the things that I picked, Mr. Speaker, from the address of the president is the cancellation of the Adani contract, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Kenyans have raised issues on the Adani contract, Mr. Speaker. And it is very rare for the minority leader to applaud the president. But Mr. Speaker, on this occasion, I want to applaud him because it was timely, he did the right thing, and he read the mood of the country and took bold decision that Kenyans were happy with, Mr. Speaker. But having said that, Mr. Speaker, the cancellation of the Adani contract does not end our problems that we have in the airports, Mr. Speaker. Because, Mr. Speaker, if you are a regular traveler at the Jomo Kenyatta Airport, Mr. Speaker, personally, I don't believe we have an airport. There is no difference, Mr. Speaker, of that airport at the moment and the bus park of Migori, Mr. Speaker, where the matatus and the buses, people board from, Mr. Speaker. You drive into that airport, Mr. Speaker, you will not know where to start from and where to end, Mr. Speaker. If myself, I have a problem, I'm a Kenyan who regularly uses that airport, Mr. Speaker. What do you think of a visitor, Mr. Speaker? who doesn't know anything about that airport. He knows nobody. You don't know where to park your car. You don't know where you're supposed to be dropped. Mr. Speaker, everything is leaking. The roof is leaking.
You go there when it's raining.
Mr. Speaker, I don't, my God, I request, I'm praying to God that I don't appear there at a time like now when it is raining. Because it can be worse. You don't, Mr. Speaker, Kenyans must know, and I'm telling those Kenyans who gave their strong views on the Adani issues, Mr. Speaker, now to give views now on how they want us to transform the airport, Mr. Speaker. It can't be one-way traffic. If you say the Adani thing is bad, then now is the time that they should give us ideas, views on how to improve our airport. That is the first place visitors interact with this country, Mr. Speaker. You land at the airport. You don't know whether you have landed at Kisumu bus park or you have landed at the national airport. Even Wilson is better of late because it's smaller in size and the traffic is smaller. At the Jomo Kenyatta, things are bad, Mr. Speaker. And you can't tell me it is the government that's supposed to fix everything. Yes, they have to do their work. They can fix what they can fix. But look at the standards. Look at what's happening globally, Mr. Speaker. Look at how PPP has transformed many countries. Go to this place, Turkey, Mr. Speaker. There's a complete new airport of bigger than Migori town, where I come from, bigger than Migori city. Migori is not a town now, it's a city. Bigger than Migori city, Mr. Speaker, and it was done through PPP. We want to be a hub. We want to be the hub of this region. Look at what's happening in Ethiopia. Look at what's happening. And then our mind is fixated with issues that we think are them against us, who is doing this, who is doing that. I may not vote for Adani myself, but what I want to say on the floor of this house is that for those of us who are against Adani, let us now give alternative views. Let us now give you alternative ways that we can improve our airport, Mr. Speaker. We can't just be saying, oh, Adani was bad, without giving any alternative, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to give you a very good example. If today we did not have this expressway, because this expressway also came through PPP, how shall we be accessing our airport today from this point? Today you can take less than 10 minutes to go to the airport. If this expressway was not there, how will you reach the airport? Mr. Speaker, these are hard questions we must ask ourselves. We cannot do politics at the expense of killing the country. Expressway is a good example of a PPP. It might have been done expensively. The cost might have been high, but it is serving the purpose that it was meant for. Many Kenyans today, everybody today who can afford to pay asks you, how can I access the expressway, from which point? When you are coming from Southern Bypass, you want to access the expressway. When you are coming from Thika Superhighway, you want to access the expressway. Why? Because it has made life easy. That is what PPP does, Mr. Speaker. It makes lives better. But I hope now, and I pray, Majority Leader, that in the subsequent decision that is to be made on this issue, transparency will be done. We need to get the next person, the next company that is going to do the PPPs. We want Kenyans to be on board. We want Kenyans to be carried on board, Mr. Speaker, through transparency and accountability. Mr. Speaker, my second issue that I took note in the speech, Mr. Speaker, is about chief and SHA. Mr. Speaker, it's a very good idea. It's a very brilliant idea for us to transform the health sector of this country. And universal health care has been in all manifestos, Mr. Speaker. It's a constitutional, right that every Kenyan must get health care, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, the idea and the laws we have passed here are very good. That's underpin the universal health care, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, but the way it has been rolled out, I believe is not in the right way, because many Kenyans are not aware of the transfer from NHIF to SHA, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, even when IEBC is conducting mass registration of voters, there's a lot of campaign in the media, there's a lot of campaign in the print media, in the radios, Mr. Speaker, asking people, umejiandikisha je?